Cool. So I just wanted to do a quick, this is going to be me now for a few moments, a new sort of segment on toolboxes. So this is something we're probably going to do once a month each time. It'll be like 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes. And just where, it'll be myself to start tonight, but going forward, it'll be just someone from the community, and you can volunteer yourself or reach out, or obviously we know many people already, but feel free to come forward. And it's just talking about what you use as tools day to day in the context of obviously your development and JavaScript. And answer to, or sort of answering the question rhetorically, why? Because I think it's useful to see what other people use, and I'll show you my sort of toolbox of tools and IDE and command line utilities, or one of each. And I think it's good from a newbie's perspective. If you're just starting out learning, then you can see tools and frameworks and stuff that you may have not touched yet, just like obviously the speakers you can learn. And if you're an experienced developer or a vet, then you can still learn, because as we know, there's crazy amounts of frameworks and things going on in the JavaScript world, for good and bad. There's obviously just stuff bubbling up all over the place, so we can't know all of it. So it could be an interesting exercise or thing to see what other people are doing. So the format, and I'll do it. I've only got one slide, so we'll kind of try and keep it, when we do it, just to one slide. I'm just going to pick one of each of these three or four things. So there's not that many IDEs out there, but I'll show one that I use or have used, not so much recently, but I'm going to show it anyway. And then frameworks, any command line interfaces or utilities or whatever that you use, and then kind of anything else or other. It doesn't have to be those four, but just just 3 or 4 tools that you use day to day that are kind of indispensable to what you do. So I've just picked a few myself. So the first one from an IDE perspective, so IDE is the development environment, or integrated development environment, it's the acronym. WebStorm 9. Now I haven't actually, I put it up there, I just bought a license. I used to use it a lot more on WebStorm 8, and I just recently bought the license, or not like a recurring license for 9, and they've got 10 in the pipeline. Now who's used WebStorm? I know a few folks here have. Only a couple, right? So it's if you've done development, if you're using Sublime or Visual Studio or others, WebStorm's another one of those, obviously. But WebStorm 9, and part of the reason I kind of upgraded is because it's got loads of support for a lot of the cutting edge or new frameworks and languages, or meta languages on top, or whatever, built into it. So it's kind of cool. And I still use Sublime as my, I'm sorry, sort of caveat it, I still use Sublime as my sort of go-to IDE. There's obviously wonderful plugins and so on with that. But WebStorm's nice, and I especially say, if you're a bit experienced, because feel free to play and give feedback to us or the community if you're. And if you're new, it's also a great thing to learn with because of the support it's got built into it. And I just listed up there some of the support that's in or out of the box. So Meteor support, React, obviously, which we're looking at tonight, and JSX. It's also got Cordova, Ionic support built into it, which is kind of interesting. I was playing with that earlier today, just because I thought I can't really put it up there if I haven't touched WebStorm 9 that much at all. That would be a bit weird. And then Gulp, Polymer, etc., etc. So it's all built into it. And then 10 is in kind of WebStorm 10 is in a kind of early kind of preview format. And so the good thing about the company behind this. IntelliJ? I guess it's the company. JetBrains, sorry, yeah. IntelliJ is our other product, sorry, yeah. I've used IntelliJ IDEA for other Java-based stuff in the past. But they seem to really keep it, embrace and keep up with stuff. So check it out. I mean, like I said, I'm not like a guru-level WebStorm 9 user, but it's pretty nice. And I'm going to start using it a bit more. Next one was under the category of frameworks. So I did a talk on this about 2 sessions ago on Ionic. So I've been doing just a project with that at the moment. And specifically, I want to call out this new project that's just come out in conjunction with a book that's written on Ionic. It's called Developing an Ionic Edge. Now, I'm not representing or trying to sell the book or anything like that, but this was a very, very cool, I'm just going to show it. So this was a project. So this is something they put out there alongside the book. And it was just a very cool. So I just want to show this one. So who's done anything with Ionic out of interest? A couple of folks. Yeah. So I'll just put this into the Chrome. So the reason I wanted to show this is because it's a really cool, I mean, Ionic, just to kind of one-line refresh people or to explain it, it's a framework that builds on top of Cordova or PhoneGap, uses Angular JS as the kind of underpinnings, and it's a very, very good framework for building hybrid mobile applications, and kind of fills the gap where, Ionic, where Cordova and or PhoneGap, because they're pretty much the same thing, one being the open source version. It just gives you, when you create a hybrid app with it, it just gives you a kind of empty container for the app to go into. Ionic kind of fills that gap, or fills that container. It's a bit small to see, but this project is pretty awesome. So and it's a nice learning project. I'm teaching a course on Ionic at the moment, or hybrid development more broadly. And we went into this and the students really liked it. So you've got the kind of classic stuff, and you can swipe out. It uses Instagram, and uses Instagram kind of OAuth, and it queries the Instagram API based on local pictures. So you can click on a picture and see it. I mean, they haven't styled it heavily, but it just shows the power of it. They've got the Tinder style like, not like, built into it. Is there a question? Oh, sorry, no, okay. So, and again, this is just built into the framework, so they've got a cards directive in Angular, and then just like a list view, and then you can scroll down, just I want to like, a glass of wine, so like that. I actually think you need to heart it. I think you need to log into Instagram. But so that's open source. So the whole project there is, and you can again, just to anyone not familiar with Ionic, or Cordova, you can package this up and then generate an iOS app or a Android app, whatever, straight away. So it's a really good code base to use. So it's called Trendy City. So that's something. The tool was Ionic, or the CLI that I used Ionic, and I just thought I'd show this as an example. And then next up in my toolbox is Yeoman. Now, who uses Yeoman as a tool? Okay. Not many people, I'm surprised. So Yeoman, and this is from their website, helps you kickstart new projects, prescribing the best practices and tools to help you stay productive. So it's a command line tool, so once you've installed it, and then they have this concept of generators. So they have literally hundreds, probably thousands of generators. And that can be anything from like a bare bones like Bootstrap project, it'll just give you the an index.html and include the the Bootstrap CSS, Bootstrap JS, right through to one that I've been using recently called the Angular full stack generator. And now that's an entire Angular vanilla project with a bunch of models, but it's a full stack. So it's got the front end and it's got the back end wired up to MongoDB. And you just install one. I mean, I won't show it now, just in terms of I want to make sure we've got plenty of time for that. But install, create a new project using Yeoman. Choose the install the full stack generator. Bang, and it creates this entire project. It's incredible. With various screens, a back end. So if you haven't used it, I'm actually surprised. More people hadn't. It's one of those things that's perhaps been bubbling away a little bit behind the scenes, but it's well worth checking out, because there's literally just hundreds of generators. So it's essentially just templates. You can think of them as a template, just to get you started. So it's again a great way to learn, because they'll have generators for everything, really, from an Angular full stack thing right through to probably React, through to everything else. And then lastly, which is the other category in my toolbox, was a client or an app called Paul. Anyone used or know of Paul? Yeah. Use it day to day, or just yeah. It's pretty nice, right? Pretty sweet. Agreed. Yeah. So it's a RESTful or HTTP REST client. So if you're building an API or building a back end, and you want to just make calls to that and construct the parameters that you pass into it and so on, never open. I just show it. Not particularly sexy tool to show, but it's a paid for one. And you might have used like Postman or some of the other kind of REST clients. WebStorm has a REST client built into it. You can literally just generate, pass the name of the route for the back for the API, pass in params in the various formats which you can pass them in, and it just shows you the response and so on. And you can kind of chain them. There's all these different types of things you can do with it.
So if you can the generator in the bottom too. Say that again. If you click on the HTTP, you can get things in different languages. Like if you go to Find More Generators, you can get things for like JavaScript, Python.
Oh, okay.
And you get the same thing. So it actually translates the stuff for you.
Nice.
Yeah.
You're
welcome, buddy.
Appreciate it. You can have a free beer. Cool. Yeah. So very, very cool. And in fact, I'm learning stuff as well. So that's great. So a very cool kind of REST client if you're doing or starting to explore doing back-end APIs and stuff. So that's it. So that's my some of my tools, and there's obviously a lot more. So yeah, I say just to kind of reiterate, we're going to do this as a small segment, or at least intend to do this as a small segment once a month, just to give you insight into different things, and we can all kind of learn.